The Renaissance included different phases and approaches to art. The early Renaissance, the High Renaissance, late Renaissance, including Mannerism and Baroque, and the Romantic era. The Dark Ages, sometimes called the Middle Ages or Medieval Ages, is the era that preceded the early Renaissance. It was a time of strife and decentralization. It was a time of rampant disease and the Black Plague. The only real artistic innovations were tapestries hung on the walls of castles to keep them warm, and stained glass. The way out of the Dark Ages came in the 1200s. It came because of a renewed interest in education, in a revival of humanistic studies, and out of a growing interest in individualism and naturalism. Most experts believe that Giotto di Bondone, better known as Giotto, was the first artist to bring these traits of humanism, individualism, and naturalism to bear in painting. Unlike other predecessors and contemporaries like Cimabue and Duccio, who worked in a flat, more decorative style, Giotto brought forth a new pictorial style that depended on clear, simple structure, deeper psychological penetration and character, and a bit more naturalness. Because of what Giotto did in his paintings, he could easily be called the father of the Renaissance and of Western painting. Giotto's paintings lacked the deep rendering of form that was to come later in the Renaissance. This was because he worked with the medium of fresco, or painting in plaster. Oil painting hadn't been discovered in Europe yet, and fresco was the medium of choice in Giotto's day. Giotto drew his figures more true to life than as idealized icons, and he is generally believed to be the first artist to do this. Most people believe that Giotto's compositions were more compositionally sound and mature than work that had come before. They usually blended biomorphic forms with geometric forms. Filippo Brunelleschi was a designer and architect around the time of Giotto. He's considered a seminal figure in the early Renaissance. And although he did numerous sculptures, particularly of the Virgin and the Child, he's considered to be the first architectural engineer. He's given credit for developing linear perspective. And although he did other buildings, his main claim to fame was the designing and building of the famous Dome of the Cathedral in Florence. The artist Donatello, an Italian artist born in Florence, was another early Renaissance artist who made inroads in naturalness and humanism. He was a sculptor who was famous for creating a shallow type bas-relief. The artist Fra Angelico was born Guido di Pietro in the Tuscan area of Italy. He led the devout and ascetic life of a Dominican friar. He was particularly known for his careful portraits and technical expertise in the art of fresco. The Madonnas he did were sweetly pretty and had a somewhat unexpected humanity. Fra Angelico included the use of everyday things in his paintings, like animals. Many people consider his use of gold combined with color to be unparalleled in the history of painting. His color was bold, strong, and harmonious. As the 1400s dawned, Masaccio emerged as one of the strongest painters of his generation. This was because of his skill at recreating lifelike figures and movements, as well as a convincing sense of three-dimensionality. Despite his brief career, Masaccio had a profound influence on other artists. He was one of the first artists to use perspective in his painting. But the thing that really makes Masaccio stand out is the degree of emotionality he got in his paintings. Andrea del Verrocchio, better known just as Verrocchio, was a goldsmith, sculptor, and painter. Verrocchio was born in Florence. He was the master of an important workshop in Florence, and many important artists were trained in his workshop. Foremost among them was the well-known Leonardo da Vinci. Verrocchio did numerous paintings in the new, more naturalistic, humanist style, yet he's known just as much for his sculpture as his paintings. Because Verrocchio worked with tempera, the mixing of pigment with egg, he was able to create more smooth rendering than with fresco. Piero della Francesca was a mathematician, geometer, and a painter. He was born and died in the town of Borgo Santo Sepolcro. His father was a tradesman and member of the Florentine and Tuscan Franceschi noble family. It's highly likely that living in Florence, he met other leading masters like Fra Angelico, Donatello, and Brunelleschi. Della Francesca was called upon by many nobles and the head of the church to do multi-panel frescoes and altarpieces. He was among the first artists to do naturalistic portraits, warts and all.